Hello? How about now? Can you hear me now? Did that work better? If anybody can comment and let me know, like, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I feel like one of those commercials. What? You can or can't? Okay, yes. My partner's in the other room yelling at me. Not yelling at me. Oh, you can hear me. Hey, Adriana. Hello, welcome in. Well, now that I know that I've been talking, that makes sense that people are coming in and out. That makes sense. I've been talking for a whole 5 minutes. Well, I can't edit that. Hey. So this is the live Skull Meatloaf podcast. My name is Ann. You'll check me out on you I like how I'm telling you. You'll check me out. You'll check me out. Skull Meatloaf podcast, it is available on all major platforms. So I figured what we can do on the live podcast is kind of extend what I've talked about during episodes, 5 minute meatloaf, or we can just talk about topics that come up. One thing I love about this live format, I will be here every single Sunday at 8 p.m. Central. And it is something that you can come and just hang out. It's very, very quick. It's about 50 minutes to 60 minutes. We'll pick a topic. Today, we're going to be extending on the 5 minute meatloaf episode that came out today. It dropped today. You can go check out the Skull Meatloaf podcast on any single platform. For video, you can do YouTube or Spotify. Otherwise, it's on like Apple, Amazon Music, audio, everything else. These will only be special to here. And welcome in everybody that's in here. One of the things that's important, anybody that's new to me on this platform, there's a couple important things. Because I'm a therapist and an AMFT approved supervisor, there are very, very important things. These are educational only. I will bring up science, I'll bring up faith, I'll bring up spirituality, I'll bring up lived experience, all of these things across the board. It doesn't reflect any of my colleagues, past, current, or future employees. It is really just outside of my time. This is my time through my LLC to connect to other people. And it doesn't replace medical treatment. That is the most important thing. One thing I'm a fan of is mindful media. And mindful media means that the things that I say, I do recognize that it may stay and it may impact people, especially because I work in the medical field. I need people to understand that I am only one person. It is even a patient right if somebody is in medical treatment to get a second and third opinion. I say it is also the same, even though it's not assuming a role with you and I while you're in here. It is very important that you know that I am just one person. And if something interests you, what I really hope with the Skull Meatloaf podcast, that's why I do 5 minute meatloaf, is so people can understand these are things to start considering. They are not the answers to anything. Anything that we talk about in here, even with my experiences, I've been a therapist for over 14 years and a spiritualist for 18 plus. It is very, very important that you recognize I am just one person. If something interests you, take the information and go seek it out, research, talk to people. And the biggest thing about today, when I say the topic with Skull Meatloaf podcast, is freedom of thought. That is our topic. You can go check out my latest episode. My favorite thing to do is 5 minute meatloafs. They take normally under 6 minutes. I say 6 minutes because it's sometimes 5 minutes and 25 seconds. It is basically 5 minutes or less of a start of a topic that we can talk about. So, hey, Moni, where's everyone gathering? So, Tony's on YouTube, Adriana's on Twitch. There are some people on Instagram. Hi, by the way. Okay, I'm glad you can hear me. Hi, Desiree. How's it going? I have to switch back and forth. One of the things, and then there's 14 people total in my stream. And just because other people aren't talking, I don't know where they are. If they want to comment, I would love to hear where you are because there's 14 of you watching. Use? Wow, that was really Wisconsin. Use. We're gonna go down to the park and gonna throw a ball. If anybody couldn't tell, I'm from Wisconsin. So that's exciting. So yeah, because I didn't really have a specific topic for tonight. Normally I do. I think I'm going to extend on the concept of freedom of thought today. Now, don't worry. The good news about me, even though I think that things like faith and politics and our belief systems and culture intertwine in our biases and everything that we do. And what is also extremely important is giving things to consider rather than telling people how to think. So before I even start, you will hear me ask a lot of questions about culture, upbringing. Even if what I talk about doesn't replace medical treatment, you can talk about it a little bit more. With that being said, my first question, my flowers are popping out. Woo! When you think about freedom of thought, the ability, what culture says about freedom of thought, everything like that. When I just mentioned the phrase freedom of thought, what comes up for you? Again, welcome in everybody. I see everybody else popping in on the different platforms. I wish it told me where you were. I don't know where you are, but I'm happy that you're here. I see Moni and I see Phoenix on Instagram. If it takes a little bit of time, welcome in. Takes a little bit of time for me to like look and comment. Freedom of thought, and I'll make sure to check all the stream of comments. If you think of freedom of thought, the ability to fearlessly form, Adriana on Twitch says the ability to fearlessly form your own thoughts and opinions. That's a great start, Adriana. Thank you, Tony. Instagram for me. Hi, Desiree. I see you. It's nice to like see you live. I wish you were on here with me. I could hang out with you. Thanks, Tony. So, freedom of thought. What do people think? I see that there's some people on Instagram and other places. What do you think? What do you think? Don't worry, I don't sit here. I'm Italian. We talk too fast. It will go. It will go smoothly. I didn't actually do specific research about what if I just Google the phrase freedom of thought. I'm curious what it says. Freedom of thought. Let's go to like strict to Wikipedia. Just I know it's not a scientific resource. We're just looking. We're just poking now. Okay. We're looking at what mindful media, we're looking what the internet is saying. Freedom of thought is the freedom of an individual to hold or consider a fact, viewpoint, thought independent of others' viewpoints, aka other of or people outside of ourselves. Freedom of expression of thought. You have the right to say what you think, share information, and demand a better world. Um, demand. I guess that it just sounds so fucking aggressive. Does it? Like, I would like to demand the world to be a better place. Now, here's where freedom of thought. I know we're not talking about freedom of speech today. We're just talking about freedom of thought. You yourself and you being able to come to conclusions. You have the right. Moni said on YouTube, by the way, Moni and Tony, I don't know if you can see each other, but say hi. You have the right to agree and disagree. That's a good one too. It's ultimately just freedom of thought. So those are like, I'm curious. I love looking on the internet and seeing what the initial definition is. Um, University of Essex did a whole research study on it. Of course they did. I love that. Freedom of thought. By the way, like as I'm poking around, there's not a lot. Hey, Tony. Hey, guys. Hey, on YouTube. And again, hey to the other like 14 or 15 people that are in here. Feel free to comment. It's not a pressure though. Freedom of thought is a really complicated concept, mostly because it is very difficult. It is very difficult right now culturally, and I'm speaking in America only. I can only speak to my own experiences here and lived experiences. Tomo, I can only experience to my own lived experiences here. I think the first thing is how our families really responded to being able to think for yourself. I know that some of us even shared last week and last time that there are not always positive familial experiences with being able to be your authentic self. The other part is just culturally is like we are social creatures by trade. We are social creatures that we connect to survive. We are it's where our drive comes from. So freedom of thought and being able to independently act upon those things is technically an evolutionary concept. Even though some people would say like, "Oh, survival of the fittest," and this and that, but yeah, humans are communal creatures. We're herders, right? We herders. We don't herd people, but like we herd. Well, we did at one point. That's dark, but we herd. We are herds of people. So in order for somebody to have like freedom of thought or those things, there is a fear that you're going to lose that connection from people. Okay, clearly, I don't know if you could hear, but the delay is like a little bit like onward, and Tony just like honked laughed in the other room. Could you guys hear him? I'm pretty sure Tony was laughing at the herd comment because I just know that like he likes that kind of humor. Uh, Tony, that was a good laugh. But ultimately, regardless of like the I know. I did know what you were laughing at, hurting human beings. But there is a reality that there is a let's talk about perceived reality. I don't want to say what the reality is. I'm not like a historian. I don't sit here and do those things. Connection, brother. W- it's very important in order to have a concept of that this is not something that we are used to doing. This potentially means that people can lose connections. How many times, how many of you just say like in the comments, just say like me, yes, whatever, and I'll check on Instagram too. How many of you have had a fear about speaking out? And I'm talking about in your friends and your family. Scared to speak out or talk about things with fear of rejection or fear of getting ostracized or pushed out of the group or not liked as much, right? Yeah, the hand raise. Thanks, Adriana. I can say me too. Hell yeah, man. More often than I'd like to admit, and then most definitely, yes. And the thing is, like, when people say, "Be your authentic self, be independent, live alone, die alone," right? That whole concept. And I am a recovering person where I was perpetually independent. Tony can even vouch for it. I was, and I'm going to share this lived experience today. Somebody that is like perpetually independent, somebody. And, the hard thing is that perpetual independence is actually like a trauma response. It's intergenerational trauma from my family that like you take care of yourself. You take care of other people, right? But you have to put yourself first ultimately. Now, what's weird about that, and Tony knows that I fight with that, and other people in my life know, because one of the things is like I put a lot of people before myself, and it actually took me a really long time to put myself first. The thing is because I had that intergenerational trauma of perpetual independence from my maternal side, right? Even though they're very loving and caring, they ultimately are like, you have to put yourself first or else you won't survive this. On the flip side, my dad was probably the opposite, where it was put every single person before yourself. I don't even know still to this day if my dad, puts himself first. I think he's starting to. And now that he's 70, but ultimately, like, I do think that that happens. I'm using a lot of adverbs and I apologize. I need to talk about a speech class. I need to stop using LYs. Um, but it really did take me a very long time. So I had those 2 fighting with each other, and I had culture knowing that there was social survival and social psychology that I had to fit in some capacity in order to connect, because I knew that I really wanted to. I knew the value of connection and people. Even at a very young age, I wrote about things when I was 6, 7, and 8 in my journals that I still read. One of these days, we should have a live about that. Some of the shit I wrote in there. Um don't worry, no trauma dumping, just some wild shit that an 8-year-old wrote down sometimes, and some of the things I got spot on, like about gender and all those other things. There was some stuff in there that, you say, like, kids see things and sometimes see the future, and that was one of those things. But, I really, really fought with, when people say, "Be authentic," and I'm like, "But there's a drive to stay in the group." Yet you're telling me to be authentic and think for myself. And the other thing is sometimes when you think for yourself, like getting scolded or losing people because of it. Being authentic to yourself, like what does that mean? Taking the mask off, what does that mean? What does that do? And people have to look at the risks and benefits of doing that, like having freedom of thought. It is not an easy thing. So every time people write these fucking books about like be vulnerable and share your voice and be authentic and this is what you're supposed to be and this is how you fucking do it. And I'm literally sitting there and I'm like, it is technically a privilege to have freedom of thought. It is a privilege in the essence of that we really do have to have the opportunity and the safety in order to have freedom of thought. Because freedom of thought can lead to freedom of speech, right? It can lead to those things. And then I'm not saying that that's something that's bad. I'm saying that it's scary evolution and hard to change. Adriana said, be your authentic self can translate to be your authentic response as long as it's an acceptable, normal, easy self. Yeah, no shit. Talk about that. I'm going to say that again. Okay. I'm gonna say that again. And I know, oh, sorry, Phoenix had said, I'm sorry, I'm a little late on Instagram. I'm sorry, guys. I gotta bounce back and forth. Give me a second. Because I want to go back to Adriana's. Phoenix said, I live alone and take care of myself, and I help others above myself and a lot of things to be easier. Maybe Waylon said, or Lauren, hi Lauren. It's a privilege to be able to do that. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I literally just we on the wavelength. Well, I wasn't. I have to like switch back and forth because Instagram doesn't have the comments in the one section. I'm so sorry, my dear. But it is like it is a privilege to be able to do that. There's intergenerational trauma, there's culture, there's sometimes, yeah, like race and ethnicity and age and placement and all these different things. Talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. To be able to like have freedom of thought and to speak up for yourself, it is a privilege. We are on the same page. So I just want to call out Lauren on Instagram totally said privilege. I'm pretty sure I wasn't looking at before I did. So I'm going to give her credit regardless of anything. And going to back to Adriana's, like be your authentic self can translate to be you, your authentic response as long as it's an acceptable, normal, easy self. As long as you fall in line, you can have freedom of thought and freedom of speech as long as you don't piss anybody off. Right? Because then you're a fucking problem. Then you're a problem. Then all of a sudden people are like, ooh, that was a little too far. That was a little too much. Here's the thing. Freedom of thought and freedom of speech. If there is not harm, and yes, I think the hard thing is people disagree on harm. It to others, yourself, right? Violence, isms, threats, things that are truly like violence and hatred, right? Because those things do hurt, like bullying or other capacities, right? I mean, they really do. Bullying leads to things like suicide and homicide. That is a reality. That's a statistic. Go check it out. You can go on apa.org. There's a whole bunch on bullying. You can go on Google Scholar and look up the evidence base behind bullying. The reality is that these things and these infrastructures that are within our cultures, including our workplace, by the way, workplace bullies, including in those spaces, that's another example is organizational bullying or workplace bullying that happens in adulthood. The hard thing is we think we're out of this shit as soon as we turn 18 and then we get into adulthood. We think everyone's like, when you're an adult, then I'll be better. And then you get to an organization and you're like, I didn't sign up for this shit. Right? Has anybody in here, and you don't need to like actually, I shouldn't say that. No, I don't want anybody to disclose because that's a raw thing. But, workplace bullying is an example of freedom of thought and freedom of speech that ultimately sometimes people aren't even saying anything, but they're just being themselves. And people have made a decision as a herd. There it goes. There's a herd again. Has made a decision as a herd that that person is the problem. We're going to ostracize them and move them out. And that is fucking terrifying because here's the thing with the workplace, if you are herded out, right, the herd decides to vote you off the island, then all of a sudden that includes family risk and finance and emotional and sometimes physical, depending where workplace bullying goes. Adriana says, as long as you fall into the status quo when you're good, but when you're getting this rhetoric from someone who's supposed to give you unconditional love, then those are huge conditions that they're placing on you. That's very, very good. I wish I could. Can I post that? I'm gonna try to post it over on Instagram, Adriana. Oh, I can show it. Oh my God, you guys, I just learned something new. I just learned something new. Can everybody see that comment? Even if you're on Instagram or can like and Moni and Tony, I know you guys are talkative too. Can you tell me if like you see it? Oh my God, that's awesome. So there you go. The hard thing is I can't do it with Instagram or else I would have picked the other one. But now you can see it. As long as you follow the status quo when you're good. But when you're getting this rhetoric from someone who's supposed to give you unconditional love, then those are huge conditions they're placing on you. That's awesome, Moni. Thank you. And you're exactly right. So we're talking about like people that are close and that love you. Think about when you were a teenager, okay? I know everybody has this story, and don't for a second tell me that all of your parents were perfect when you were, all those things. There's no way. No parent is perfect when people are in adolescence, and no adolescent is perfect in adolescence. I treat teenagers and young adults and like we all got our shit, okay? Going into adolescence, I want to know, do you remember the first time you talked back to your parents? parents, caregiver, whoever it may be. Do you remember the first time you showed them freedom of thought or freedom of speech within your family? What happened? Be honest. You can see it on Instagram. Yay, 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 yay. Oh, you can see it. Oh my god. Guys, we just found something else. We found something else. Oh. Okay. I'm looking on Instagram too. That did not go over well. Okay. Lauren said that did not go over well. Yeah, me neither, Lauren. Me neither. It did not go over super well, right? Freedom of freedom of thought, right? Like, oh, um, I told my mom I hated her when I was 4, and she made me think that she kicked me out. Oh my gosh. That sounds like a story. I feel like you've told me this one before. I feel like we've talked about that as friends, like one-on-one. But yeah, that's what happens. I remember Tony and Moni, just because culturally I know Adriana, I know, has talked to Tony as good. I could laugh about it now. Yeah, me too. um there was one time I called my mom the C word. That was not freedom of thought. That was me being a bully and a dick. That happened, but that was in my adulthood. Ooh, sorry, mom. That was right when I was 18 that I was really egotistical and thought that I knew everything. How'd that go? Really well. By the way, we're really close now. It's good. But I remember my dad was like, "Get out of the house." Yeah, Dad, you should have kicked me out of the house. It was a terrible thing. um, Let me click back to Instagram. Years of fighting. Lauren, me too. Like, the hardest part about it is that me and my mom were so similar for so long. Um, and and we still are. It's not for so long, but we were, and because of that, we really butt heads. And I think she wanted me to, like, really be independent, really taught me to be that, like, independent thinking, really have the right to do that, stand up for things that you believe in, including people that can't help themselves or animals, right, etcetera. But then when I started doing it with them, that did not go over so well. It's almost like when I started applying everything they taught me, they're like, "Yeah, you can do it everywhere, but, like, here." Right? Um Hey, welcome in, Burr. Burr, if you want it, Tony and Moni are over on YouTube. But you can stay on Instagram because we got a team here, but just in case. Phoenix says on Instagram, my opinions and emotions were devalued. Yes. Like that word. I wish I could pin that. Like, yes, people really like devalue or push down, or they say like it's less value or less important. And then people believe it. You know what the hardest shit is, you guys? When you're in adolescence and certain people keep doing that habitually, and devalue and pushing down and making it a problem, or crazy making and gaslighting. Some people that have really toxic parent. I did not experience that with my parents, but sometimes that does happen. When those things happen, it affects people. It affects how they communicate. If you notice, you see when a teenager in clinical, like in the clinical world, I see when a teenager is shut down. It's really heartbreaking. And to give them a space to be like, you get to think whatever you want in here, as long as it's not harm to yourself and others, right? Like there can be that thought. And if you do have those thoughts, this is what we can do. Um, so hashtag Tomo. So Moni had said Moni, I just hold on. 13 in high school, I was disagreeing about school clothes or something. I realized real quick that wasn't a hill I was ready to die on. I was always worried about puffing my chest. Yeah, no shit. Like, especially like, yeah, careful with your ego. Tony knows I battle with a lot, like just being able to like share joys, because there was a lot of anytime there was a joy, it was be humble, you know, be humble. Right. And it's really difficult. Phoenix says, I always beat to my own drum, but quote unquote, I will grow out of it. I love that, Phoenix. Mostly because one thing I love about you from college and on, Phoenix and I've known each other a really long time. There was I think that's why we got along, because both Phoenix and I did beat to our own drum. But a lot of people, yeah, I mean, they think like you grow out of it, but then there's some of us that just are really spirited people that are like, no, like I'm done. Uh Adriana said, "Now as an adult, I'm constantly second guessing myself because I'm so." Oh, this is a good one. You always say really profound things, Adriana. Welcome in, other people that just came in. It's the Call Me Love podcast. We're halfway through. We meet every 8 p.m. on Sunday. Happy to have you. We're talking about freedom of thought and the impact of it, the risks and the benefits. Now, as an adult, I'm constantly second guessing myself because I'm so afraid that I'm going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing and let everyone down. That is also very true. But see, here's the thing, we talk about this a lot in here. I have learned to really empathize when you talk about letting people down when it goes to the extreme with people pleasing, right? Like people will say, how will people respond? Or this is what it's going to look like. The hard part about, people pleasing and trauma response when it's at a really severe degree, then you are talk about the risk. The benefit is you, right? Quote unquote benefit, internal benefit is you will not have conflict, most likely, right? With people pleasing. The risk is you move further away from being your authentic self because of that fear. And the second thing is the fear and anxiety that that brings up in being yourself. And when that is a trauma response, when that is with people pleasing, I have a lot of empathy for people that have that. I am the opposite. I'm like a fighter rather than like a flighter or fawner. So I go to anger, fuck you, which is also not good. Like I want to be clear again, that perpetual independence versus people pleasing, those are both trauma responses, or it can be very much related to grief and trauma or complex like habits. But it is absolutely something that is very, very real for people. Um, Okay, so we're halfway through. So now let's change up the question a little bit. Oh, I forgot. I forgot I can write a question. Can I? I think I can. Oh, wait, I have another comment. Hold on. Hashtag Tomo. You guys are dorks. I can. Let's create a banner. Let's ask the next question. Okay, let's add the banner. So here's your question. I had to type it in. I didn't type it in beforehand. Phoenix says, alone into my own drum was consistent. No conflict and still being abandoned and devalued. I became independent in who I wanted to be. Did you see? And here's, so Phoenix, I think of this next question, like, especially other people here, as someone that's like to the beat of your own drum. And I very much like, I really am like that person too, but I want to hear from other people before I babble. What are the benefits, safety nets of freedom of thought? Like if you were to think like, you know, here's the thing. Okay, I want to go back to freedom of thought is not just like freedom of speech. Freedom of thought just means that you can consider, you can look around, you can look at second opinions, you can build, you can ask yourself, what do I believe in? Where did it come from? Do I still believe in this? Is this something that I really feel passionate about? How do I apply this in the world around me? How do I move towards my authentic self? It's just being able to think about thinking, which I know is hard for those of us that, have any sort of anxiety or cyclical thoughts. We're like, oh my God, thinking about thinking, that sounds terrible. But that's really what it is about. That's really what it is about. So when you think of what are the benefits, you will, hold on, here's a Tony thing. You will always know you are true to yourself. Oh, Tony. Oh, Tony. We love our Tony, don't we? Tony's a jam. What are the benefits of freedom of thought? If you were to think like if I was just thinking for myself, if I was looking at a situation and I was thinking for myself, what are the benefits to that? Now, you're normally I say drawbacks than benefits. I'm doing backwards on purpose because I think a lot of people, like even just we just talked about, there are a lot of drawbacks, right? But I want to first ask, like, what are the benefits of thinking for yourself? That's all freedom of thought means is thinking for yourself. Being able to think for yourself, to understand your bias, your impact, what it looks like, how you perceive it. Phoenix says on Instagram says, I'm doing stuff that most people can't fathom fitting into societal norms. That's what we love about you. That's the thing, like being and thinking outside the box, right? How do people like Phoenix? How do you notice how do people respond? Let's talk a little about that. I know you said people kind of like devalue it, but even like as an adult, right? Like we're in our 30s now. What do you, how do you see like other adults? Not just when we were kids, but like when you're an adult and you think for yourself and doing things that don't fit into societal norms, like how do people respond? Lauren says, when you have freedom of thought, you're able to expand and grow and evolve. You get to explore different avenues and really authentically choose what your action is going to be. Beautifully said. Adriana says, and it doesn't really matter what others have to say about any time because you know where you stand. There's like this solidifying. I really wish like I would have pinned your comment, Lauren. I gotta figure out why Instagram and StreamYard can't do it directly. It's really sad. Because I think there's really beautiful comments like from all of you over there on Instagram. PS, if you guys have like YouTube or Twitch, a lot of people are on YouTube right now. Adriana's on Twitch. So if you want like more of that interaction, you can check out those avenues. I do have 4 people on X. Looks like I have a couple people on Facebook, mostly on YouTube and Twitch though. So either way, you know, like Adriana. Oh, the first part was above that. Did I miss it? Oh, okay. Here we go. Wait, no. Is that the I don't think I got it, oh, I only saw this one, Adriana. I don't that one only came through. No. That makes me so sad. Welcome to the glitches and comments. But it is like it is true though, Adriana, like you know where you stand. One of the things I asked a client this last week because they were talking about not really knowing themselves. Or when I was talking about freedom of thought, just because that did come up in our conversation naturally. And they're a young adult and we were talking about all these things. And I just, when I was kind of looking at them, I said, what is something you know about yourself that nobody could convince you otherwise? Something you believe in that you think about yourself. Oh, here we go. This is Adriana. For some, not all, I think you can create your own little world where you're incredibly confident in who you are. Yeah, that's very true. Almost to like a delulu state, right? Like a delusional state. But in essence, sometimes it can be really healthy and a safety for people that haven't been able to do it before, you know? Phoenix says, I get a lot of jealousy pushed in my direction for doing what I authentically want to do. Okay, that's good. Let's break that down. And then Lauren has another comment too. Let's like break that down here. Okay. I get a lot of jealousy, Phoenix says. I said, what happens as adults? Like if you're authentic to yourself, I said, what's been your experience? And Phoenix said, I get a lot of jealousy pushed in my direction for doing what I authentically want to do. Literally for fucking existing. Just for existing in your authentic state. People being jealous. And I know for a fact everybody here has experienced a jealous person. How many people, if there's anything that I have learned, the more joy I choose. I learned that with my podcast, Epoxy Interview with Annette. Joy is a choice. The more joy I choose, the more mindful I am, the healthier I am, the more that I'm evolving, even with like my body and like losing weight from my health, like just the health component. I cannot tell you the more that I evolve and heal, I have seen so many jealous people. I have had recent experiences in the healing industry. People that literally promote healing to other people actively become jealous, engage with my business, things like that. I've even had these people, I don't think people realize that you can see like ratings on Facebook and Spotify and everything else. But recently there were things that came up where people purposely put low stars on my businesses. And I knew who they were because I do tracking things. And when I saw it, I was blindsided. I wasn't necessarily surprised, but I looked at it and I kinda said, "You're in this field. You are somebody that does this work, and you proactively went out of your way." Not even to, like, give feedback or rate, like, a 2 or 3. It's not always about ratings, it's just, like, a tangible thing I can share. I believe that people have the right to their opinions. I feel like, though, if it's somebody that gives you a 1, I'm like, "At least reach out to me and give me some feedback if it's a 1." That is a fair response. That's freedom of thought and choice. I will respect it. Yet, what's difficult is the individuals that did these things were really, authentic, were really different to my face, right? So for me, you talk about being authentically yourself. Did that get to me? I was confused. But ultimately, does it do anything? No. I walk and evolve on. I just say to myself, like, okay, and I move on, right? But were there conversations with my partner? I was like, oh yeah, I'm just like, I'm confused. It's not that I don't expect it. It's not that I'm quote unquote surprised that people are like that or that they mask or that they do those things. Yet what was difficult is if they weren't hiding behind a computer, they would never do that. So that's what I think of with freedom of thought. That makes it most difficult for me is when people are showing different things on the outside than they are thinking or feeling on the inside. And that's something that inauthenticity, it does impact people. Everything from people pleasing to perpetual independence, the fuck everybody thing, to people that hyper mask. You are actually not only hurting yourself, you are affecting other people. You're affecting other people. I'm gonna say so jealousy. So Lauren says freedom of thought also really strengthens the relationship you have with yourself. So let's talk about like the benefits. That's a good switch. Let's talk about the benefits. Um, strengthens your relationship you have with yourself, which is honestly, it is hard to say even as a licensed marriage and family therapist. It is the most important, you guys. The most relationship that you have is with yourself. Tony and I talk about that all the time. Anytime that I have a fear of like losing myself, or even for him as he's like building his own, I said, I don't want you to do something for me or because of me or something I've said, but for yourself. Like people you love around you, encourage and empower them to think for themselves. Even if they disagree with you, even if that makes you feel something, they have the right to their thought and feeling, and so the fuck do you. It's vice versa. And when the thing I will say the most as like a friend and a loved one, come to me. Honesty will always be received well, even if someone's like, "That was a piece of shit that you said that," right? Like, I would look at them and say, "Please, like, talk to me. Tell me why." Um, but I notice there's not a lot of people that do. You can't really be straightforward and honest. And I'm not talking about like honestly brutal, but like brutally honest. Like those are the people that I like being close to me. I don't like pussyfooting around stuff. Lauren said resentment from others because of something they can't do to themselves. So focus on others instead of their own life. That's true. Phoenix says the more joy and goals I'm putting out there and completing upsets those that can't do that for themselves. Hell yeah, it does. Again, it's that jealousy bullshit. It is that jealousy bullshit. Hold on, I gotta scan up. I see comments. I see comments. Sorry, I got distracted. Adriana, yeah, this was 4 minutes ago. Sorry, Adriana. Adriana says that makes so much sense. There's so many people out there who aren't following their dreams and living fulfilling life. So when they see someone living their personal dream, jealousy and resentment starts to, and isn't that like fucking bizarre? One of the weirdest things I say to people is get a new fucking hobby other than people. Other than other people, inserting yourself in other people's lives, thinking you know what's best for them, thinking you know what's coming next, thinking whatever it is. Who are you to say that person is the only person? And I say this for all of you too. You are the only person in your skin 24/7, 365. You cannot have somebody that knows 10% of the fucking story telling you how that narrative runs. You fucking kidding me? That's very Italian. How Italian did that sound? I lost somebody had said too many F words. Too damn bad. One of because that's authentic, right? That's the brave space. By the way, go check out my videos that talk about brave space. It means that I'm not going to sit here and not say things that are difficult. I get very passionate about things. But again, you don't like something, don't then think of why you don't like it. If you like it, think about why you like it and expand on it. That's freedom of thought. Coming in here, you do not need to agree with me on everything. That is not the bullshit response that I want on my podcast. I want people to come here and be authentic to themselves, whether I agree or disagree. That doesn't matter. Agreeing or disagree, again, as long as it doesn't hurt other people or yourself, you get to come here and be yourself. That is the point of this podcast. And at 8 p.m. every Sunday Central, this is when you get to come here and do that. And if anybody gets on here and tries to like snap on you, by the way, the people that are in here won't, not because they know better, but because they're evolving and they're healthy and because they understand. We create a brave space here of being able to talk about difficult shit. Okay. Burr says, hold on, my Burr. Burr says people don't want to see others happy when they themselves are unhappy. That is so true. It's the misery loves company bullshit, right? It's the misery loves company. They're like, you can't be happier than me. And you know what the hard thing is? I've heard a lot of people in therapy that their family is like that. People that are closest to them. There's this quote that my client said this week that said, all the scars that people have given me aren't from people that I don't know. They're not from strangers. The scars, the pain, the hurt. And I know that's a famous quote. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it was a teenager that just kind of shared that and was like, the people that have hurt me the most have been the people closest to me. This is an instance. A couple of these people, like even with the recent ratings, they were people that were decently in my circle. It was one of those things where, again, it didn't like sit with me long, but it was one of those things. It's like, you're supposed to be promoting these things like self-evolution. This is something so then I just worry. That's on me. That's perceived stress. But then I worry about people. I can handle it. I can handle people being pieces of shit, right? Because I'm perpetual independence. I'm leaving that trauma. I have that natural wall up where I like protect myself from those things. And when I say like, I am impacted, right? I have emotions and thoughts when people like say or do things with me. When I say I don't give a shit what people think, it means it doesn't stay with me or affect me. I can be impacted and not affected. Not everybody is that lucky. Not everybody has that shield. Not everybody comes from that space. I feel like it was easier to be perpetually independent and come to the middle. There's a lot of pains with it, but some people, I feel like people pleasing is a true trauma response that is difficult to like stop. It is something that takes long. Hurt people hurt people. Oh, let's put that up there. Hurt people hurt people. Word. Phoenix says, this is another reason being independent and alone is I don't want to be resented people taking on my authenticity instead of what's their true authenticity. See, but here's the thing, like Phoenix, I don't know if this is what you were saying, but independent is I don't want to be resented by people taking on my authenticity instead of being like what's their authentic. That's the thing. People have the right to their thoughts. People have the rights to their reactions. People have choices. People have voices. And they self-regulate and decide what they do. We do way too much of blaming everybody else around us for the things that we've done. I can tell people family impacts us, but as soon as you're 18, it's your choice. That's a brave space comment. Not everybody likes that. It is time to like heal that trauma, that intergenerational trauma, even when it's family and loved ones. And I've had stuff even over 18 that have impacted me over and under that I've had trauma that's happened. And I have had to take ownership. It is nobody else's, to deal with that but us. That's the brave space thing is like, it's on us. There's a deep understanding that I don't expect. I love when people are there, but I don't expect things out of the people I love, right? I have values that I appreciate, that I align with, that I see in people. But an expectation for another human being, they're evolving, they're going to change, right? Yeah, sorry, I didn't see this till now. Lauren said, that's a great line. Get another hobby besides other people. It's the fucking truth. There are way too many people that have hobbies with other people. And I'm saying, like, if you're one of those people, even if you're in my circle, when I tell you, like, get a fucking life, right? That means, like, get a life interesting enough and make a life interesting enough that you don't make other people your hobby. And I will say that to a friend. I will say it to a stranger. So whoever's in here, I wouldn't get the guy teeth. Well, that's why I don't wear stuff like that. This is why we get along so well. I know, right, Phoenix? That's very true, though. Oh, there we go. Man, guys, the time flew and we talked about like some shit. We had a lot of people in and out of here. We scared away some people and we kept a lot of people. So thanks everybody on the different platforms that have been on here. This was a very exciting conversation. The thing is, these are things to consider. No grooming bullshit. This is mindful media. If anything connected to you today or disconnected from you that you were like, I really deeply do not believe that. Freedom of thought is after today. Whatever you aligned with, think about more. Whatever you and do research on more and develop why you believe that. Surround yourself with people that you can talk about that with. They don't need to agree with you, but have people you can have conversations with. On the flip side, if there's something you didn't align with or you wonder if you align with, go and think why. Being in this space in the Skull Meat Love podcast on this live, you never need to agree with me. That is not required to fucking be here. The only thing that I ask is an agreement in some capacity or a belief in mindful media that we're respectful of each other in some way, that people can have their view. If it's not malicious and not hurting people, they get it. And it's not our job to make people comfortable with what we have to say. It is not our job to regulate that. We can consider one of my favorite qualities is I love, especially everybody in here. Everybody is considerate. They consider and think about other people. Consider, not caretake. Care give. I tell people this is my line. Give consideration. Don't take responsibility. I say that line all the time. It's even in my book. Care give, not care take. Give consideration, don't take responsibility. This new obsession with the white knight syndrome stuff that is our job to swoop in and do things. We can advocate, we can be support, we can educate, we can be involved, we can be aware. Yet our greatest gift is self-evolving for the greater good. If you can begin to understand like the beauty that we hold just in evolving in our freedom of thought and who we are, as long as it doesn't hurt other people or ourselves, right? Deeply, violence. We don't want that. You get it. You get it. Yeah, we talked about there's a lot to think about with that. Phoenix says, I attract those that try to attach to my authenticity makes I attract those that try to attach to my authenticity. And that makes me uncomfortable because they have to work to find who they are, not take on who I am. And like you said, Phoenix, in your comment, this is why we do get along because you and I were just ourselves. But think of that's why our friendship survived. And that's why it thrives, right? I mean, it's what, 15 years, something like that. That's why our friendship, it doesn't matter if we talk every day, it doesn't matter what we have to say. But if you call me, you're like, I don't agree with that, or I agree with that, I would just hear you out. Those are the people. That's the same with my childhood friends that I've had, the ones that have lasted the storm. That I have a 7+ year relationship with Tony, that I have, that I'm close to the people in my life. I mean, my parents have really evolved and grown, and so has my sister. Um, and there are people that I'm like, I want to be able to have a hard conversation with you and not feel like we need to agree or disagree, but can just be. That's when we talk about those different like relationships. Evolving hurts sometimes. It does, Moni. Sometimes it hurts all the time. No, I'm just kidding. Sometimes it is like very happy, but it does. It does. It's hard because there's a part of evolving that just happens. And then there's the parts that are choices. I feel like sometimes both hurt really bad. And then there's really good rewards that are really good, but it does hurt sometimes. That made me laugh. That's a perfect way to like end our time today. And thanks everybody for again having a brave space conversation. I was a little slow moving in the beginning because my frontal lobe, even though I'm like really awake and we just had a great dinner, I was sitting here and I'm like, man, the frontal lobe was really having some trouble getting going today. But thanks for hanging in with me. Uh yeah, the grass is greener on the other side. Just a friendly reminder, right? The grass is greener on the other side. Um Here's the thing, like, when it reminds me I'm gonna leave it with this. When people, especially teenagers, ask me all the time, "Does this get better? Do things get better?" I say, "I will not lie to you that shit doesn't keep happening, yet our ability to evolve and respond to it does improve. Every lived experience, no matter how hard it is, and honestly, my greatest losses and traumas have taught me the most. Doesn't mean I'm thankful for them. Oh my God. If people say, like, I'm super thankful for who the fuck's thankful for their traumas? Like, I apologize. That might be something people disagree with. And there is a reality. I'm like, we're not thankful for like traumatic loss and grief and trauma. That's not something I'm going to jam with myself. Feel free to, like, think your own thoughts about that. That's encouraged. And just for myself, when people tell me that, and I'm just, right, that's the toxic positivity stuff. I'm like, well, it happened for a reason. And it's like, one of their freaking family members just died. Don't tell them it happened for a reason. What? That's different choices. uh, and, right, that there really is a deep piece to things necessarily that happen in our lives don't stop happening and they don't get easier. Yeah, we have a choice that how we respond to them can become easier for us and according to us. And that's what we have a choice on is mindset and how we respond to it. I love you too. Love you too, Bear. Thanks for coming to hang out. Thanks for people that popped in. Again, we had a lot of like good traffic tonight. I don't mind like if there's one comment, no comments, or 600. People are coming in. Your comments made an impact today. Your authenticity, all of you. One thing I love about our crew here that was here today. Um, that's very perfect. Yep. The hits start coming and they don't stop coming. They start coming and they don't stop coming. And it hit the ground running. Um, oh, sorry, I came back. Lauren, thank you for the brave space. This was off, even though I joined a little behind. Thanks, Lauren. Yeah, hell no, not thankful for my trauma. I'm thankful to me for how I go through it and how I choose to work it into my life. Oh my God, if I could pin anything, I got shivers. So I'm going to read it again for those of us in trauma recovery or for grief recovery, loss recovery, mental health recovery. This is important. I'm not thankful for my trauma. This is from Lauren. I'm thankful to me for how I go through it and how I choose to work it into my life. That was a beautiful ending to a beautiful night. We don't need to be thankful for the shit, the gunk, the sludge, and the trauma and the bullshit and the things and the losses that have happened to us. But we can feel grateful for how strong we are. One of my lines I say to myself, if I can go through blank, right? I don't want to trauma dump, but if I can go through blank, I can go through anything. That's what a lot of my hard losses taught me is what I was capable of. So, as we leave here today, yes, as we leave here today, thanks for coming to hang out with me. You guys always make this space really good. And we will for sure see you next Sunday. I had a crafting day to make like handmade rosaries and bracelets and things like that because I still have some of those things. Um, so we'll see. That's kind of the plan is to make something and be creative because that's normally the fourth Sunday is creativity. Um, and please and offer if you're ever interested in like a topic or something that's coming across that you're really passionate about. I do have the multi-stream service where I can invite you into the live and you can also stream it onto your platforms independently. If any of you are ever interested in being like a guest or coming in here to one of those topics, you can check out my pinned videos that say what my topics are for the month. Even if you want to be like creative next Sunday at 8 p.m. with me and you want to just craft with me. Um, it's building community, in here. So I appreciate as, Anne of Skull Meatloaf podcast, but as all of your, specifically in here, like friends, and a lot of you have been friends with for a good amount of time. Um, Thanks for being you and your commitment to self evolution. And just know all of you on a day I needed it inspired me to keep going on days where it was hard to. Doesn't matter where we're at or how strong we are as people, we all need those reminders. And today, all of you really reminded me of that too. So thank you for your contributions. I love you too. For the collective, that's right. I'm gonna pin that. For the collective. I feel like it's the big thing. Like we should put our fists together, like fucking Viking warriors, like for the collective. Hell yeah. I will do warrior. If I could do a warrior yell and it would be received, I would do it. You got to have Tony do one. Tony's the big warrior. And love you too, Moni. And I put, oh, where's Burr? Burr was on here too. Oh, Burr. I was trying to find, where's the comment? I was going to put, I love you too, Burr. She put it above there. I love you guys too. And I'll talk to you over on Instagram. Bye. I know I'm trying to, and I'll laugh at me. I was like, I love you too. I saw it earlier and I was trying to find it. Ha! Da 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 da. It was tucked. Ha 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 ha. Love you too, Burr. Make sure to follow each other. Thank you for your commitment to all of your self growth. And as always, as we end our time today, right on time, I'm getting better at ending shit on time, you guys. As always, at the end of the podcast, we always say, evolve and heal on, my friends. We